People think people do things just because of drugs. No, it's not. It's because of the water. It's because of hurricane. If you smoke weed.
Holy shit.
The president has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them. And that's what this administration is doing.
San Diego, California. A relief vessel turned into a smuggling ship. A humanitarian couple. 2,743 refugee and orphaned children missing. 1.2 kilograms of fentanyl unaccounted for. Want to know the truth behind this story? Hit like and I will show you what was hidden. At 5:18 a.m. in San Diego, California, the city still lay asleep beneath the cold breath of the ocean wind. One by one, a convoy of federal black SUVs came to a stop outside the headquarters of the Global Children's Relief Foundation. Within seconds, more than 40 FBI and DHS agents moved forward with a clear and precise objective. The private executive office belonging to the organization's director, Abdirahman Bashir Warsaim, 54. A Somali humanitarian figure long praised for compassion and moral courage, and his wife, Dr. Marian Ali Duele, 52, who served as a senior program administrator within the same organization. Together, they had addressed congressional committees 19 times. They appeared at 7 international forums, and their foundation publicly claimed to provide education and protection for more than 14,000 refugee children across 3 continents. Major newspapers called them guardians of displaced youth, while donors proudly repeated a powerful phrase: they are entrusted with the future of thousands of children. But behind the speeches, the awards, and the applause, something was wrong. When federal analysts reviewed their records, they uncovered a disturbing pattern. Investigators later traced 2,743 missing refugee and orphaned children to programs connected to the couple's international travel exchange network. Documents showed repeated cases in which children listed as participants in educational programs had departed, yet no records showed them returning. For more than 5 years, their organization reported revenues of over $310 million per year, yet financial statements shifted constantly without explanation. Travel records revealed multiple recurring private sea routes, not to refugee camps or aid centers, but to remote, unmonitored departure ports across the Pacific. To the public, these were only statistics. To federal investigators, they were warning bells. Because while the public saw a symbol of humanitarian virtue, federal analysts were beginning to recognize something else. Behind the image of this celebrated couple may not have been charity, but a legacy built on a truth far darker than anyone ever imagined. You have only seen what they wanted you to see. Hit like and subscribe, because what comes next will reveal how power became a shield for evil. The deeper the investigation went, the more the truth was brought to light. For years, admirers praised their discipline, structure, and flawless precision. But that precision concealed another reality, one that investigators would eventually describe as a humanitarian mask hiding an industrial-scale human trafficking machine. Confidential financial audits revealed that their foundation had processed more than $286 million in international aid funds over 5 years. Yet nearly 41% of those transfers flowed through phantom programs. No actual schools, no classrooms, no verified students. The paperwork was complete, but it led nowhere. Instead, it operated in parallel with commercial brokerage networks in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. Among more than 3,100 listed minors, at least 2,700 had no documentation. Their tracking records were empty. Their routine medical examinations were halted without explanation. In dozens of cases, even their names disappeared from the digital system, erased as if those children had never existed. The destinations told another story. Passenger manifests revealed repeated departures tied to the same international transport corridor, the same shipping agent, the same time windows, month after month. Each group of children was moved aboard luxury charter yachts leased through third-party shell companies, departing after midnight from discreet coastal marinas in California, Washington, and British Columbia. Passenger rosters described them as youth educational delegations. Every vessel recorded its departure time, and each route ended at southern coastal ports in China. Another intelligence source revealed something even more disturbing. Encrypted communications were traced to members of the CJNG cartel, previously monitored for narcotics trafficking and forced labor networks. The connection was intentional, not accidental. Working together, they coordinated narcotics shipments into the United States, with more than 1.2 kilograms of fentanyl moved along transport corridors overlapping the organization's routes. And once again, the same pattern appeared. Target, a luxury yacht disguised as a humanitarian relief vessel. Projected number of children, 450. Distribution network, unregistered private hospitals in China. Estimated black market profit, billions of dollars.
Right? Shout out to the Democrats that are here for the children, the children, the children. It's my educated thesis that the only thing the Democrats are good for is fucking and raping children. And good people, the only thing they're capable of is keeping their mouths shut. Care to comment? Good people. Holy shit. You really care about the children, don't you?
After confirming every stage of the operation, federal agencies reached a single, unavoidable conclusion. This was no longer a charity audit. This was no longer a records review. It was the blueprint of an organized human trafficking network, built behind the trusted public faces of a powerful couple. If you want to see how smoothly this network operated, and why it existed beyond the reach of the United States, comment, "Go deeper." What comes next will reveal just how horrifying it truly is. At 5:41 a.m., the Pacific waters off the coast of San Diego were dark and silent. 38 nautical miles from shore, a large white humanitarian yacht cut through the waves, its name painted carefully along the hull. Relief vessel, Silver Dawn. On social media,
they want our property. They want black people property. They never say who it is. They just say, you know who they are. But when I come up in here, I see all black faces. I see Democrats. So are we talking about the Democrats are pushing black people out of their communities? The Democrats hate black people.
The Democrats hate black people. Push you out of your communities, your land, and your country. What? You call me racist for talking about it, right?
But we see all of you all here. And then you sit here, all these
media, the voice.
Sit here, all Democrats, and you sit here all arrogantly like your seats are secure, like we're not coming after these seats. Just like I told Brendan Johnson over there the first time I spoke on that mic. I said the same thing that's making y'all laugh and here gonna make y'all cry. And then you see what's happening. Same thing here. Now I'm giving y'all warning right here. The same thing that's making y'all laugh and here is gonna make y'all cry. Mark my words. See, y'all sit here too comfortably, thinking that everything, black people stupid. That we don't understand what's going on, that we're going to vote blue no matter who. And all y'all got to do is use a race card. All y'all got to do is call white supremacy, the white man. But we're the heavily Democratic city from top to bottom. State and city, all Democrats. So can we say that the Democrats are racist white men or white women? Who is it? Because this is what y'all telling us. So I'm letting you all know, Chicago flips red. We are not paying these taxes. We are calling for a boycott on these taxes. Nobody is playing this game no more. We won't pay our taxes. We get a forensic audit on where all our money is going.
Where's our money going?
Send the feds here.
Send the feds.
DOJ here.
Send the DOJ.
On where our money is going. We are not paying no property tax. Today,
come get some.
Loving her home, she just got for $1 million.
Y'all heard me. Come get some. You silent, sexist, racist bigots. You honkies and crackers with nothing to fucking say for yourselves. Come get some. Who's racist? Who's ignorant? Silent people are fucking racist and goddamn ignorant. Hell, no matter what color you are. Huh? What? Come get some. You heard me. I said that this was an international trafficking ring. I said all fucking politicians love fucking children out of their future. Where's the good people at? Nothing to say for yourselves. And at the same time, you silent motherfucking whores are gonna call me the devil. It's amazing.
Enrichment journey for refugee children. The images showed smiling faces, banners, and promises of learning and hope. But inside the federal command room, the truth had already been revealed. On that vessel were more than 450 children, many without identification, many without guardians, many already missing from official records. They were not headed toward opportunity. They were being prepared for sale and transfer. The order was issued at 5:58 a.m. The waters around the yacht shifted from silence to coordinated motion. The U.S. Navy's rapid response vessels, USS Cole and USS Carney, closed in from starboard and port. FBI and ICE tactical teams prepared to board. Above the waves, two MH-60S Seahawk helicopters moved into position, one on each side, hovering steady in the cold morning air. No announcement was made. No warning was issued. This operation had one singular objective: stop the ship before any child disappeared beyond reach. When federal floodlights illuminated the vessel, several men on the upper deck stepped back, then reappeared with weapons, attempting to force the yacht forward. Gunfire erupted from behind the railings. Not chaotic, not frantic, controlled, intentional. They were not volunteers. They were not caretakers. They were enforcers. For 12 minutes, the confrontation unfolded in tense, breath-tightening waves. Naval ships blocked the bow. The engines stalled under pressure. On the upper deck, several armed accomplices tried to hold their ground, but resistance weakened as the perimeter tightened. From above, the Seahawks deployed ropes. One by one, federal agents descended onto the deck, not to provoke, but to reach the children below, crying in confusion and fear. Uniformed crew members moved to block the passageways. Some tried to build barricades inside the corridors. Others ran toward the cabin sections. A few retrieved concealed weapons and fired from storage compartments. Then Warsame and Duale, once praised worldwide as humanitarian leaders, ran toward the aft passage of the vessel, not toward the children, toward escape. Inside the ship, the teams worked calmly and methodically. Cabins were opened. Children were gathered into secure areas. Medical personnel reassured them, speaking softly, slowly, gently. No child was injured. Not a single child was left behind. On the main deck, the final resistance collapsed. Weapons were lowered. Armed men surrendered. Some dropped to their knees, hands pressed against the deck. By 6:12 a.m.,
all right, look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but my man just tried that new 100 milligram generic Viagra for only 87 cents a pop from Friday Plan.
27 individuals were in federal custody. 3 armed resistors were found unconscious at the scene, and in the narrow rear corridor of the vessel, under dim emergency lighting. The couple stood there, not in authority, not before an audience, but pressed against the bulkhead, trying to hide behind a storage hatch. They said nothing. They did not protest. Their wrists were bound. The applause of conference halls was gone. The cameras were off. The stage was gone. For the first time in years, no speech was delivered, only silence. And the two figures, once celebrated as protectors of children, were escorted across the deck under federal guard, while the very children they had abandoned were carried into the safe arms of those who had come to rescue them. What shocked federal agents wasn't the battle itself. It was the network behind it. Comment, expose. The next part reveals everything. By 7:21 a.m., the gunfire had fallen silent, and the deck of the Silver Dawn relief vessel was under full federal control. The morning air over the Pacific was cold and still, broken only by the sound of helicopter rotors and the steady movements of rescue teams guiding frightened children into safe areas of the ship. There was no celebration, no applause, no sense of victory. What waited inside the vessel was not a crime scene. It was a hidden system. As agents moved below deck, they discovered corridor after corridor of tightly arranged cabin compartments. Each small room contained stacked bunks, folded blankets, and lists taped beside the doors. Some lists contained nothing more than first names and numbers. No guardians, no addresses, no legal records. In total, over 450 children were counted and verified on board. Many wore identical wristbands. Many had no luggage. Several did not know where they were being taken. And when they were asked who had authorized their journey, the answers were vague, confused, or painfully quiet. Some believed they were traveling to study abroad. Others thought they were being adopted. Several had been told they were part of a cultural program approved by charitable sponsors. But there were no education materials, no school coordinators, no legitimate travel guardians. Instead, agents located a locked administrative storage room near the lower engineering cabin. Inside were 40 encrypted communication devices, ledgers marked with foreign transfer codes, multiple travel rosters linked to earlier voyages, and contact keys tied to offshore handlers in southern China. A separate compartment held 5 metal cases. 2 contained vacuum-sealed bundles of currency. 1 contained high-value jewelry and payment contracts. Another held narcotic trace packets consistent with prior trafficking routes. The 5th case contained something else entirely: documentation from foundation donors, humanitarian endorsements, and program sponsorship reports, all written to describe the very same children as beneficiaries of aid. But the names on those records did not match the manifests found on board. And in federal review, many of those beneficiaries were already marked as missing in international systems. It was no longer possible to call this an irregularity. It was evidence. Outside on the deck, medical teams examined the children one by one. Several were dehydrated. Many were exhausted. Some had been moved between locations multiple times before boarding the yacht, never told why. Yet through all of it, the crew members disguised as caretakers referred to the voyage as a humanitarian mission. They wore uniforms. They used official language. They spoke as though the system around them was legitimate. And that was what shook investigators most. Nothing about the operation appeared chaotic. Nothing resembled crime in the shadows. Everything was orderly, organized, structured, built to move human lives as if they were cargo. By the time the ship's lower levels were fully secured, the truth had taken shape. This vessel was not an accident. It was not an isolated act. It was one node of a network, hidden behind charity reports, protected by official paperwork, and powered by people who had convinced the world they were saving children, while quietly sending them into the hands of those who would profit from their disappearance. For everything to unfold this smoothly, someone has to be pulling the strings. Who do you think it is? Your reasoning could help bring the entire picture into focus. By 8:10 a.m., while the relief vessel Silver Dawn remained under strict federal protection, the investigation shifted from the ship itself to the machinery that had allowed it to operate for so long. Inside the Federal Command briefing room in San Diego, analysts began reviewing years of internal records, travel authorizations, and port clearance approvals connected to the couple's organization and their foundation. What had happened was not coincidence. It was coordination. Over a span of 5 years, more than 118 international departure requests had been approved under the same humanitarian categories: youth exchange, temporary relocation, and educational transition support. Nearly every departure occurred during the same late-night inspection window, between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. when staffing was lowest, and oversight procedures were routinely delayed. None of those departures were flagged. Not a single one was denied. When investigators traced the approval chains, the findings were deeply alarming. Several documents had been processed through private compliance consultants and third-party assessment firms hired to support international aid logistics. Their signatures appeared repeatedly on cargo transfer papers, passenger exemptions, and maritime transport waivers. The more files analysts reviewed, the clearer the larger picture became. This network did not survive because it was invisible. It survived because too many people chose not to see it. Financial audits revealed consulting and advisory fees totaling more than $92 million, allocated to shell organizations tied to port administration groups, legal review bodies, and overseas coordination offices. On paper, these payments were legitimate, labeled as risk evaluation, international coordination, and humanitarian infrastructure support. In reality, they served one single function: they prevented questions from being asked. When junior staff requested secondary passenger verification, the request was marked unnecessary. When voyage logs showed repeated late-night departures, the anomaly was labeled statistically insignificant. When a customs officer refused clearance, he was reassigned within weeks. The pattern repeated year after year. Official emails retrieved from encrypted servers described the program as a priority humanitarian corridor. Some cargo declarations were pre-classified as low risk, meaning no deep scanning, no extended review, no intrusive inspection. And those classifications had been applied to the very routes now linked to 2,700 missing minors, hundreds of covert financial transfers, and a parallel flow of illicit financial activity. This was not a bureaucratic failure. This was institutional permission. What troubled investigators most was not the money itself, but the mindset behind it. The individuals who reinforced this system did not see themselves as criminals. They spoke in the language of efficiency, growth, partnership, and international cooperation. They convinced themselves they were protecting programs, protecting reputations, protecting stability. But stability for whom? Every unchecked approval, every softened report, every buried question carried a human cost. Children disappeared in silence. Records closed quietly. And a humanitarian image concealed a criminal network that operated through offices, boardrooms, and polished institutions, not alleys and shadows. When the final briefing concluded, one realization stood above the rest. This network did not operate beneath the system. It operated inside it, sustained by paperwork, protected by process, and upheld by people who believed that looking away was easier than confronting the truth.
Should these glasses be illegal in the US? Nobody believed me at first, but now everybody wants a pair. My friends roast.
By the afternoon of the operation, the activity aboard the Silver Dawn had grown quieter. The noise of the confrontation had faded, replaced by softer sounds. Medical teams speaking gently, blankets being unfolded, children being guided to seated areas on the upper deck beneath the morning light. There was no triumphant tone, no victory language, only a steady and deliberate sense of responsibility. Across several hours, federal child services teams and medical personnel worked room by room, verifying identities and stabilizing the young passengers. Out of more than 450 children rescued, many were unable to describe the full path that had brought them to the vessel. Some had been moved between shelters, others had crossed multiple borders, several had been separated from guardians long before boarding. Their records revealed something larger. Cross-referenced against international databases, at least 2,700 minors tied to earlier program transfers had never re-entered legitimate humanitarian systems across the previous 5 years. Many had vanished from school registries. Others disappeared after temporary sponsorship documents expired. A significant number were never recorded again, not as students, not as residents, not as refugees. For investigators, the numbers no longer represented figures in a report. They represented absence. Each missing record was a child without answers. Each missing name was a life that could not be traced. As analysts reconstructed the movement corridors linked to the foundation, a deeper reality emerged. Children were not simply mismanaged. They had been absorbed into concealed pipelines, transferred through routes built to erase their existence from oversight structures. Some had been shifted repeatedly to prevent tracking. Some were listed under altered identifiers. Some left no trace beyond a single outbound manifest. The emotional weight of these findings did not fall in a single moment. It gathered slowly, quietly, as case logs hardened into fact. Parallel investigations confirmed that the network did not merely operate alongside criminal transport channels, it relied on them. Financial reviews documented hundreds of millions of dollars routed through layered accounts under the appearance of humanitarian allocation. Those funds did not build schools. They did not support shelter programs. They did not return to the children whose names had justified them. A separate intelligence stream linked overlapping maritime routes to narcotics corridors responsible for more than 1.2 tons of illegal substance movement over an extended period. The same vessels that carried the language of charity also carried the concealment strategies of organized trafficking. The damage did not stop at numbers. It extended into communities. Social workers across multiple states reported scattered cases of unexplained child relocation, dependency terminations, and sudden record closures corresponding to the same foundation timelines. Families who believed their children were entering protected programs had instead been separated from oversight entirely. For those who survived the journey and were recovered, the path forward would not be simple. Many required medical evaluation, legal guardianship review, and long-term psychological support. Some spoke little, some remained silent, some were still too young to understand what they had nearly been taken into. Justice, investigators understood, would not be measured in a single operation. It would be measured in years of reconstruction, locating survivors, rebuilding records, restoring identities, and returning dignity to those who had been treated not as children, but as shipments moving through a system that called itself humanitarian. Inside the federal briefing room, one conclusion echoed again and again. This was not collateral damage. This was the purpose of the network. It existed to convert vulnerability into profit, to turn innocence into a resource, to move lives through doors that were never meant to close. And as the rescued children were carefully transferred from the deck of the Silver Dawn to protective custody, the people who had come to save them carried a quiet understanding. Stopping the ship ended the movement, but the work of healing and the work of truth had only just begun. By the end of the first 24 hours, the Silver Dawn relief vessel was no longer moving across the Pacific. It was anchored under U.S. Navy escort, its decks secured, its compartments sealed, and its systems cataloged as part of a widening federal investigation. Warsame and Duale did not return to conferences or cameras. They was transferred under guard to the USS Coronado, where federal agents began the first stage of post-operation questioning. There were no speeches, no public statements, and no appeals to humanitarian authority. The interrogation room remained quiet, and the records spoke louder than any defense they could offer. Within days, the investigation expanded far beyond the ship. Bank accounts tied to the Global Child Relief Foundation were frozen across 7 jurisdictions. Real estate holdings, foreign investment portfolios, donor trust reserves, and subsidiary program accounts were seized pending review. In total, more than $420 million in assets were placed under emergency federal control. None of the corresponding ledgers matched legitimate program spending. Behind every financial transfer was a trail of shell organizations, advisory partnerships, and consultancy fronts designed to disguise extraction as aid distribution. In multiple cases, the same authorizing signatures appeared across funding approvals, port access waivers, and international travel exemptions. The findings were not isolated. They were structural. Grand jury panels were convened under sealed proceedings. Charges extended far beyond mismanagement or fraud. Draft indictments spanned human trafficking, conspiracy across international borders, financial laundering through humanitarian channels, obstruction of oversight procedures, and organized racketeering activity. Several cooperating witnesses were identified. Individuals once positioned inside compliance review offices, logistics contracting firms, and advisory bodies linked to transportation and aid coordination. Their testimonies revealed a system that had not simply overlooked risk, it had normalized it. Federal analysts recovered more than 14,000 internal communications, outlining a language of operational caution.
This is Freshpet. Here, there are no fillers, no spray-on flavors, no
not to protect children, but to protect the image of the foundation. Phrases such as avoid disruption to priority partners and do not delay humanitarian throughput appeared repeatedly across routing approvals. Those very approvals corresponded to the same corridors tied to 2,700 missing minors, overlapping narcotics routes, and concealed maritime transfers over multiple years. Meanwhile, oversight audits were launched at additional program hubs in 3 countries. Early findings revealed similar documentation patterns, similar contractor relationships, and similar low-risk classifications for passenger clearances conducted during overnight hours. This was no longer viewed as a single case. It was recognized as a model, one capable of replicating itself wherever institutions valued efficiency over scrutiny, reputation over accountability, and paperwork over truth. There were no public celebrations when the findings were presented. No press conference declared victory. Inside the closed briefing rooms, the tone remained measured and solemn. Investigators understood that the arrests, asset seizures, and indictments could not reverse what had already been lost. Communities would spend years repairing trust. Survivors would navigate long processes of recovery. Courts would move carefully because haste could never replace justice. Yet one fact stood firm. The pipeline had been severed. The vessel no longer sailed under the banner of charity. The financial machinery that sustained it no longer moved unchecked. And the image that once shielded wrongdoing had been stripped away, replaced not with outrage, but with documentation, evidence, and accountability. For those who had worked through the operation, the meaning was neither triumph nor closure. It was responsibility. Responsibility to tell the truth. Responsibility to protect those who had no voice. Responsibility to ensure that silence could never again be mistaken for compassion. Because the greatest danger had not been the ship, the money, or the network itself. It was the belief that a system built on trust could never be questioned. This case broke that belief, and with it came a final, unspoken understanding. Humanitarian work demands vigilance, not admiration, and the cost of looking away is measured in lives.
Build a website you love with Wix.
That was California.
For your words,
One is this. It's a
Right.
suspension of Maine care payments. State auditors say in this document that there is a credible allegation of fraud that they're investigating regarding Gateway Community Services.
In the House oversight demands for certain banking reports, they list as persons of interest the company's founder and CEO, Abdullahi Ali, the Somali American who, while at the time serving as executive director for Gateway, last year ran for president, which is essentially governor of Jubaland.
I am prepared to face the concern and the challenges, and I will put everything on the table, including assassination.
And we're back, y'all. Thank you for watching today. Go ahead and hit that like button, my people. You know that it helps us out a ton. And of course, it helps you because it helps us keep bringing you these stories every
Care provider in Portland, Gateway Community Services. Just late this afternoon, the State Department of Health and Human Services issued two big documents that tell us some important things. One is this. It's a suspension of Maine care payments. State auditors say in this document that there is a credible allegation of fraud that they're investigating regarding Gateway Community Services. They also released the results of a third audit. We told you about two audits that took place many years ago that the state told us about earlier this month. Well, they just released the results of a third audit that took place between 2021 and the end of 2022. They found in that audit that Gateway overbilled Maine Care by more than $1 million. And a spokesperson for DHHS told us during those prior audits that we were asking about that anytime that they have to recoup more than $100,000, that it's considered significant. So this $1 million is certainly a big deal. Auditors wrote in the report to Gateway Community Services that these are not only widespread, but repeated errors. And they say, we've educated you on this before, we've penalized you on this before, and now Gateway has 60 days to appeal this latest finding by the state. Now, this also lines up with some data that we had requested from the Department of Health and Human Services about how much money did Gateway get in Maine Care dollars from 2019 to 2024. They gave us those numbers. They say it was about $4 to $5 million a year, a total of $28 million. We reached out to the lawyer for Gateway and said, what's the deal with this? He said those gross revenue figures don't really account for the full cost for Gateway delivering its services. They have multiple locations, more than 100 employees, most of whom are not new Americans. He said that Gateway incurs significant fixed operating costs to provide these services and that their net revenue is substantially lower. So then we reached out to the lawyer again to ask him about this latest finding. He said Gateway received that notice. Right now the reimbursements are paused. Gateway has very little information of what this is based upon besides that notice. They said they're going to take time to review it and respond to the allegations. They say they stand by their previous statements.
So let's find out who is this person who heads up Gateway, y'all. His name is Abdullahi Ali. Take a look at this brief little clip, and then we'll get into the proof. He actually did an interview about his running for a governmental office in Somalia.
Important to note, in the House oversight demands for certain banking reports, they list as persons of interest the company's founder and CEO, Abdullahi Ali, the Somali American who, while at the time serving as executive director for Gateway, last year ran for president, which is essentially governor of Jubaland, a state in Somalia's south of borders Kenya. Also listed, former assistant executive director and current U.S. state representative for Maine, Daycare.
So we had reported on this previously that he had run for, he ran for warlord in Somalia. And that's because the reports say that he had to show them that he could get a militia together. And in case you don't know what a militia is, it's like kind of a small army. And so people have been saying that he's taking money out of Maine and sending it over there to fund the army. That part, of course, he did not comment on in this interview, but he absolutely did say he was running for what I say warlord in Somalia, y'all. This is wild. Check this out.
One of your main stated goals in your campaign platform is driving out the extremist group Al-Shabaab. How dangerous of a task is that? And are you concerned about your own safety?
Of course, I'm, concerned of what that would look like, but I am prepared to face the concern and the challenges, and I don't leave. I will put everything on the table, including assassination attacks against myself and others.
How has your experience in leadership roles in Maine influenced your feeling that you're fit to lead in your home country?
I have spent about 15 years in Maine. Most of that for the last 10 years, I have been running organizations in Maine. And in the last 4 years, I have also led an organization that is based in Maine but has offices in Kenya and provide services in East Africa.
And I'm just going to loop this in, y'all. This is totally unsubstantiated. I'm not even going to play the audio from this. If you want to see what this person said, I believe is on. If you want to see what this person said, you can check out Mila Joy on X. He's making allegations that Abdullahi, let's just say, was trying to silence a journalist who's reporting on all of this supposed fraud at Gateway. Again, there's no way for me to know. I didn't find any independent reporting on that. I don't know where this comes from, but I'm including it in this video just in case in the future something does come out, I can flash back to it. So over the weekend, the Nick Shirley videos from Minnesota blew up. We covered a couple of those. I definitely recommend you check them out on X. They might be on YouTube as well. Tremendous reporting done by a young man who has been going to different hot spots around the country, and I believe even internationally, and bringing people to see with their own eyes, of course, through his videos, exactly what's going on. And now it looks like Maine and even Ohio might be other hot spots that are going to be on the radar going forward. We have somebody who is receiving money from the United States legitimately, apparently, and maybe even illegitimately, if you believe the reports. And some of that money might be going overseas for a militia. Again, I haven't seen any substantiated reports on that, but he did get the money from somewhere if he was funding the militia, right? You know? So, y'all, what do you think about all this? I mean, should there be any prohibition on Americans holding governmental offices in foreign countries?
Roku's self-serve ads platform. It's easier than ever with Ads Manager. Sign up today.
There's no fraud going on whatsoever. Kids come to us. There's no fraud going on whatsoever. No, we're business owners. Trying to raise kids that are not yours, that are others, is extremely tough as well.
It's honestly just disgusting how he tries to mention that raising kids is extremely difficult when we all know that they haven't been doing any of that. Anyway, guys, today I found some of the craziest clips of the fraud incident in Minnesota, and you won't want to miss a single one.
Today I'm showing you 161 Childcare in Columbus, Ohio. And as you can see, it does not look like a childcare center at all. It is locked, it says it's open. There's a little desk right there, but the ceiling's all falling out and stuff like that. And if you come around back, you can see that this place is just a total dump. Literal just debris everywhere. This is a question. How do you enroll? How do you enroll your children here? You can't do that? No kids? So how can I enroll my children? It says you get public money through. You get public money through Ohio. You get money through the state of Ohio. This is a money that gets.
I find it so crazy that the lady at the end had no shame and just straight up said that you cannot enroll your kids here. It's just such a blatant fraud, and it's clear that these people are not taking care of any children.
So you mean to tell me you went all the way to Minnesota just to pocket watch, and then on top of that, put out misinformation? But that's what I'll be saying, like, bro, like y'all say, like, this is getting out of hand, bro. We will not accept this. We will not tolerate this in the state of Somalia. I'm sick of these people, bro. I'm sick and tired of them, bro. They stay hating on us, bro. For what, bro? Like, leave us alone.
Demanding to see children that are not yours at a daycare so you can record them is a level of pedophilia that has yet to be talked about.
So in my opinion, I think it's pretty obvious that they aren't trying to see the children for those reasons, but they're trying to see them to actually prove whether or not they're really at a daycare. Because as far as I and many other Americans have seen, there are no children here getting taken care of.
Well, guess what, guys? Apparently, you can lear from your mistakes. In daycare center that Nick Shirley exposed in Minnesota, that's right. They changed their sign. It is no longer the leering center, okay? It's the learning center. But Tim Walz, I just got a couple words for you, okay? You can't patch up fraud. We see you. Now you better rush in your house, okay? Because I know there are people who are traveling to Minnesota so that they can scream the R word on your front lawn. But remember, that daycare's phone number goes right to Tim Walz, so you don't even have to travel to Minnesota to let him know how you feel. You can just pick up the phone. Here it is. There's that daycare, the Sweet Angel Daycare Service. Doesn't that sound just splendid, all right? Now, they are trying to say that it was a Google clerical error, all right? I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for contacting the office of Governor Tim Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Our office is located at 130 State Capitol at 75 Reverend.
Oh my God.
If only Tom Petty would have got the memo. Leering to fly. Would have been a hit.
It's mind-boggling that you start a learning center where you misspell learning, and for years that goes unnoticed by the government who is giving you millions of dollars.
Who are saying Somali, they have to leave America. What if you guys leave and then we stay? You guys don't want us, right? So you guys leave and then we stay. Yeah? Ininkas ka bada. Ana wa jogi na mfant. Magal ka ni wan kasena. Those people who are saying Somali, they have to leave America. What if you guys leave and then we stay? You guys don't want us, right? So you guys leave and then we stay. Yeah? Ininkas ka bada. All right,
so I don't think people are necessarily saying that all of a certain group should leave America. I do think that they just want people to be prosecuted for the criminal actions and fraud that they have done and for all the money that they have stolen from the government.
Crackdown in Minnesota over potential fraud is ramping up on multiple fronts now. Not only do you have DHS and FBI agents on the ground, but the Small Business Administration is now halting all federal funding to the state after identifying $430 million in PPP loans in Minnesota that are suspected of fraud. As we've been reporting, these concerns over fraud, particularly in the child care space in Minneapolis, go back more than a decade, including these surveillance videos that were part of a case prosecuted by Hennepin County back in 2015. The video shows parents checking their kids into a daycare and then walking back out with them minutes later. Our Minneapolis Fox station reported that sometimes the kids wouldn't even show up, and that either way, the businesses would bill the state for a full day of services, claiming that it's already investigated many of the businesses in Nick Shirley's viral video.
So there have been ongoing investigations with several of those centers. None of those investigations uncovered findings of fraud. One of the centers, Quality Learning Center, closed just over a week ago.
With those claims is that the manager of the Quality Learning Center says they never closed and they are even open now, and that the state agency was putting out false information. All of this is raising more questions about the credibility of the state agencies who are supposed to be overseeing these programs that are now being investigated.
The fundamental problem here is that we have a governor and an administration that has totally broken its trust with the people of Minnesota. So it's very difficult for any Minnesotan, and it's very difficult for us to take at face value anything that the Walz administration says on this topic.
When the sawdust settles and the engine finally roars, the thing you care about most is a job.
Sounds like that.
As all of these investigations continue, Attorney General Pam Bondi says the Justice Department has now charged 98 individuals in Minnesota with fraud, and she says more prosecutions are on the way.
So I think the clearest thing that we have learned from this whole situation is that the people supposed to be overseeing and making sure no fraud is going on are not really even there. Because as the reporter said, this has been going on for the better part of a decade. And with all the PPP loan fraud that happened with businesses back in 2020, you would think that the government would actually find a way to audit and check the people receiving this money.
They're so mad. The Somalians are so mad because can you imagine for years you're at the dinner table talking with your family about how everything's good. Oh, we don't need to worry because the government and whatnot, they're collecting millions of dollars for these companies. Tax exempt, by the way, especially the daycares. So can you imagine how mad they are now? Like that's why they're right now, there's like people are so upset. Like there's like bounties on me here in Minnesota because people are so upset as far as the fraud that's being exposed because they know their time's up and they know everyone's just sick and tired of this happening inside their own state and across America.
What have some of those threats been?
Yeah, there was apparently like a BOLO that they used. That's the word that some people told me was on me, and I can't reveal too much just because I don't want to reveal. But like, yeah, lots of messages, death threats, obviously on social media, and then it's just not the most safe thing for me to be moving around freely right now.
I think that's fair. I mean,
so I shouldn't have to say it, but this man does not deserve any of what he has been receiving. Even if you might not agree with him politically, it's really not about that. It's just the fact that, he exposed a huge fraud ring, and now he's just trying to find answers as to why this has been happening for the better part of a decade.
I own 65 daycare centers in Minnesota, and we are now having all of our funding taken away because of some misinformation posted on X by a random guy calling himself a journalist saying that this is fraud, that $19 billion is too much to run thousands of daycare centers for people in Minnesota. And yes, the Somali community has a lot of kids, so they need a lot of daycare centers. Do you know how much crayons cost, Elon? Do you know how much tables, chairs, security, heating, food, educational books and documents cost? They cost a lot of money. I'm spending $50 million a month on my daycare centers. And yes, they are empty because we are waiting for the children to come. And yes, some of them are in sheds and shacks because we don't have enough money to fund all of the daycare centers. We need more cash, not less. And Tim Walz has done everything he can to make sure we get that cash. And now you want to take it away because of some misinformation you made up, because you don't like the fact that those of us in Minnesota and the Somali community need more daycare centers because the kids need somewhere to learn, somewhere to grow, somewhere to be while the parents are at work. It's not okay. You can't just shut us down. I take a salary because I need to get to work. I need 2 cars, one for work and one to get things to work because I'm the one running 65 daycare centers on my own. What am I supposed to do? I need clothes. I need a roof over my head. I need a spare apartment near the daycare center so I can go home and, brush up on what I need to teach.
The fuck?
These are necessities, expensive necessities so people can have daycare. And now it's gone. I hope you're happy.
So I'm sure crayons, tables, and chairs and all these amenities for these daycare centers cost so much to the point where you need to be taking millions of dollars in salaries out of the government's pockets, or I guess I should say out of the taxpayers' pockets, unfortunately. But all jokes aside, right? If your daycare isn't running for a day, then why are you billing the government?
The fraud claim, there's no fraud going on whatsoever. Kids come to us, clients come to us, their parents come to us, they're here daily, they leave on time, they come on time. There's no fraud going on whatsoever. Where those claims came from, I mean, if a group of people does fraud, you don't paint the brush with everyone in that group. No, we're business owners. Being a business owner is extremely tough. Trying to raise kids that are not yours, that are others, is extremely tough as well.
What would you say to Nick Shirley, the YouTuber, if he was standing in front of you?
I have
right
nothing
now?
against him himself, but I do have something against the rhetoric. If you're going to be a journalist, just have a moral compass. Like, do what you do correctly. If you catch business that are fraud, no one here is with that, or we don't support that as a community. I don't support that myself. I was born and raised here. I'm not for fraud. Like the notion that hey, a certain batch of Somalis got caught, so all of them support it. It's like, no one, if in any community, any mishaps that happen, the rest of the community obviously doesn't want that to happen. It's a stain on all of our names, as you guys can see. We don't want that to happen. We don't take part in that. We don't like that. We don't want that in our communities. But just to say, hey, a certain company got caught, so they must all do it, and I feel like that's what he's doing. I'm not a fan of it.
This is the ED. It's not for the faint of heart.
Welcome back. Who else is going to get this place to the 4th of July? I could use a second set of hands.
And so we begin.
10 p.m. may not be your typical daycare hours.
Yep.
So can you explain why it is
The reason
hours?
for that is we're after school hours. So most of our clients, not most of our clients, all of our clients is after school hours. So schools earliest dismissal would be 2:15 to 2:30ish, and the latest dismissal would be up to like 4:30ish, 4:40ish. So that's when our kids come to us. We don't have anyone in the morning. We deal with only parents and clients that come to us after school. So that's why ours are 2 to 10 p.m. If we try to do, once again, I'd like to conclude the YouTuber that was making the claims. You were here earlier today. I came here at 1 o'clock. You were here. Where are you now? You claim we're closed. You claim we're a fraud. Where are you? Why are you not here right now? It's like you're trying to put out a certain message about a certain group. I'm not gonna make that claim. I don't want to make that claim without me knowing him personally, but that's what it seems like he's doing from his front. Where are you right now? He was here earlier. He was recording us. We had no issue with it. He told me, hey, just get off our property. You can record. Now he's not here.
The funniest and most ironic part of this whole video is the fact that behind him is the quality leering censor. I just honestly cannot get over that typo. I don't know how that could have even happened. If this guy runs such a legitimate daycare and learning center, then how would you have made that mistake in the first place?
You beef one Somali. You beef every Somali. If there's one thing about Somalis, they are going to ride out for their Somali brothers and sisters. They are going to crash out. They don't do one-on-ones. They're gonna jump you. Abdi's gonna go tell Rakta, who's gonna go tell her brother Mo, who's gonna go tell Naima, and she's gonna tell her Opti. You are well and truly pissed if you get into beef with a Somali, because word will get out that you're beefing the Malis. And then it's up from there. Even if you think that Somali is miskeen, they just watch anime and play PlayStation. They have someone in their network that is a trapper, that is on job. The Somali network is bigger than Google. It's even faster than Google. Next time you get into beef with a Somali, if you ever do, just let it slide. Because I promise you, you are going to have like 50,000 man on your case if you beef a Somali.
So obviously a community can get together and support each other, but when there's a massive fraud ring within the community, then at that point you really cannot back that up at all. And obviously I shouldn't have to say it, but this is just a small subset of Somalian people and it doesn't represent the whole community. All right, so that video was absolutely insane, but I don't know what you expected to happen when you've committed fraud and stole millions of dollars from innocent taxpayers.
Only Americans who's concerned with the Somali business is the ones who have no life. They have a lot of time in their hand. They broke. They don't have no money, no ambition, nothing. They don't have hobbies. They depressed. They lonely. You know, there's always those type of people who care about situations like this. You know, people who have something going on for their life, right? They're busy in their career, their family, they taking vacation, they're enjoying their life. You know, they're not concerned with the Somalians in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Only people you will see who's worrying about this it's not even racist. They just broke. They just don't have anything going on. They're broken spiritually, physically, and financially. That's what it is. They don't have any.
So I'm being as honest as possible when I say this, but I don't really think most of these people are broke. I think the reason why people are mad is because you're taking money out of their pockets. Obviously, the average taxpayer helps support the money that the government gives out in this situation. But guys, you won't want to miss the craziest last clip.
What's your response to the allegations? Is there fraud going on here? No, it's a video. I just want to know. What's your response? Huh? Get the out of here. What's your response to the allegations? Is there fraud going on here? And is there children? That's all.
I have absolutely no reason why this guy is even recording. He's really not accomplishing anything. And the way he's talking to the reporter does not sound like a very nice way to talk as an employee of a learning center. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Like and subscribe and comment which moment.
Right. So, Somali fraud, Minnesota, Maine, Ohio. What's going on in Ohio? Right.
Now, what if they fucking did that on purpose?
They did.
Luring.
Yeah. Oh.
Luring.
What happens when you want more for your bank? Well, you go to a credit union.
Absolutely. We have dozens of credible whistleblower reports saying that exact same thing, that people were told not to say anything because they'd be called racist or Islamophobic, or it would hurt the state. And so people tried to come forward, but were shut down. And that protection of a particular community is what really allowed this fraud to flourish in Minnesota for years. But we have said very publicly that, yes, the bulk of the fraud we've discovered so far is in the Somali community, but some of our best whistleblowers are also in the Somali community. And it's really important that we get to the truth of this issue. And so by failing to call it out, we allowed it to continue. And that has hurt Minnesotans tremendously, taxpayers and our vulnerable citizens. Absolutely. We have just.
Now, I'm going to play something later that shows that they knew about this in 2018 and did nothing about it. But related to that, this is Nick Shirley, who did the investigation into this. I've talked about Nick Shirley. He's a friend of the show. He's a really nice guy, actually. But I want you to listen to it. Look what's on the bottom. It says, Waltz calls fraud investigation white supremacy. This was the same response that Tim Walz had back about a month ago when we first, when this story kind of came out. It was a little bit of news. Now, thanks to Nick, it is everywhere. But when we did that story back then, when I did it, I remember he was saying the same things. Like, this is, all of them were coming up to the podium and saying, this is white supremacy, this is racism, this is all of these different things, right? Islamophobia, because that is when they're caught. This is what they do. They just lie, and then they turn around and blame, because of the identity politics that they play. They go turn it back on that person, say, well, how dare you investigate someone? And if you do this and you're not the same color as them, well, that must mean that you're a white supremacist. Like, I personally, I don't like, no, Nick. But I remember reaching out to him, can I use some of his clips and things like that? And he was like, yeah, sure, it's fine. Now, this is before he blew up really big right now. This was earlier this year. But he was just very nice. I've never seen him do anything. He goes everywhere. He films protests, riots, any big thing that's going on. And so I think this is maybe his first investigation. So it's interesting to see. But I wholeheartedly reject that.
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
So it sounds to me, Nick, that Governor Tim Walz is saying that you and others that are out there trying to expose this, you're doing it because you're white supremacists. What is your response to him?
Yeah, Tim wants votes. There are entire apartment complexes where white people have been pushed out of these apartment complexes because Somalians have taken over, and they're inside of these towns like Minneapolis, where they can go get votes from these people. And if you have 100,000 people that will vote for you because you're going to enable and let this stuff happen, and because you're going to call a white person racist for calling out facts, this is what's going to happen to a state like Minnesota. Minnesotans, they say Minnesota nice, but they are very upset. And I totally understand why they're upset, because they don't have a governor who's actually working for them. He's actually working against them.
Nick, your video's been viewed 93 million times. What do you think will be the result of this? Do you think that things will change because of bringing attention to this, or do you think it'll be much the same, swept under the rug and keep moving forward?
Yeah, there better be change. People are demanding it. The investigations have been launched just from that video alone. And so there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, people in the government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable. And so if there's not something that's happened, people are going to be very frustrated. And so if President Trump's watching this, it's time to really get down to nitty-gritty and to make a difference in this place of Minnesota that is pretty much like Somaliland right now.
Now, will something get done? I don't know, guys. I don't know because, again, remember I told you I have a video. Let's just put it here. It's very short, but I think it's interesting to look at. But look what this says. It says, breaking. It has been revealed a whistleblower inside Minnesota's DHS, Scott Stillman, uncovered the Somalian daycare fraud network in 2018, accurately citing figures of 100 million in fraud and stating that Al-Shabaab was being funded with it. But Tim Walz did nothing. So
$100 million figure came from Scott Stillman, a former Department of Human Services computer forensics director. He also alleged money from the daycare fraud was being sent to fund terrorists in Somalia. $100 million figure came from Scott Stillman.
So like I said, that was a short video, but let me play this longer one. So we're going to play it in a second, but remember I told you this is going on all over the country. Well, it says Minnesota might just be where they got caught first. A TikToker decided to investigate daycare centers in Columbus, Ohio, which has the nation's second largest Somali population at around 60,000 people. Let me play it.
Destroyed an enemy cruiser.
All right, so a lot of this fraud in Minnesota is centered around daycares. And now there are claims about daycares coming up from Ohio, and this is crazy. I'm just going to start showing you some of these examples here. But basically, Columbus is home to the nation's second largest Somali community behind Minnesota. There's about 60,000 Somali Americans in Columbus, and there's 500 Somali-owned businesses. And if you're not caught up on this, the FBI is now investigating this fraud in Minnesota. They say that it might reach up to $9 billion, one of the largest Medicaid frauds in American history. And federal officials have portrayed the Somali community as a hotspot for fraud. And I mean portrayed, but most of the fraud defendants are of Somali descent in Minnesota. So people just started using this tool where you can look up daycare centers in Ohio to look these places up. So here's one, 161 Child Care LLC. And it's listed at this address. So I literally just put this address in my own personal Google Maps, and this is what I see. It's listed as a smoke shop. Okay, and then here's First Choice Child Care. It's listed at this address, 4303 Cleveland Avenue, and this is what I see. You know, it's just like the windows are all blacked out. There's no playscape. There's nothing for kids. Maybe the photo was taken at the wrong time, but not many cars there. All right, and then there's Benati Child Care 2. And it's at 3629 Cleveland Avenue. And here we go again. Part of it is a boutique with bars on it. And here's the child care center. These all say 6 weeks to 12 years old. And if you have kids, you would know that most child care centers do not enroll kids that are between 6 weeks and 12 years old. That's way too big of a spread. But it enables you to get more kids enrolled, hypothetically, or at least claim that they're enrolled. And then you just start looking at the reviews. And so if they even have reviews, like this place got 2 reviews 2 years ago, and they're both 5-star reviews. And again, I don't know if you have kids, but daycares get reviews. Okay, and then you got the Hyatt Learning Center, and it's at 2599 Tiller Lane. This place you can't even see on Google Maps. But you can see that at this address, there's like all these businesses that are listed there, and this learning center is just one of them, and it has no reviews. And then this one, Ka Child Care, which is listed at 2635 Dublin, and that's this spot here. You gotta love the 1-star award winner. But mostly you just notice like there's no playground, there's no kids. And this place is listed as being permanently closed, but it got 1 review and has been open since 2018. So in the last, 5-6 years, 1 review. And it gets spicier because there is this congressperson, Ismail Mohammed, who's of Somali descent, who is receiving campaign donations from these daycare centers, Star Zone Daycare, Bright Kids Academy. All right, so here is Bright Kids Academy. We get the classic blacked out windows again. No reviews. Here is the Star Zone Daycare here. Again, blacked out windows, no cars, no playground. They do have a few reviews, and this lady said it's a joke. The teachers are not trained and are basically women that bring their kids to the center, and this is going to come back. Here's another one that donated to his campaign, Primo One Daycare. Again, classic, no cars, blacked out windows. And they had the wherewithal to put up these, nice looking photos, but again, no reviews. And here's this one, Rise Up Daycare, which is in this place. Again, classic, no playground. They say that they've enrolled 71 kids, which means they're getting reimbursed for, more kids. But when they were actually inspected, there was hardly any kids in the building. So yeah, it looks like the same scheme that's been used in Minnesota likely seems like it's going on in Ohio. And when I'm reflecting on this, it just makes me remember that Somalis follow this Islamic tradition where men can marry up to 4 wives, provided they're able to support them. And based on my research, it just seems like oftentimes what will happen is there will be one official marriage and then more cultural marriages. But then I started thinking about this lady's review where she was like, hey, the teachers aren't trained and they're basically just women that bring their kids to the center. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. That might jive with this whole thing. And so it's like, all right, cool. So if the guys are able to support them is the big thing. But just are we the ones supporting them? And if so, just a genuine question. Do we want to do that?
I mean, guys, it's the exact same thing in Ohio. And in my last video, I showed you this guy. They haven't investigated yet, but Washington State has 539 Somali daycares, and you're seeing the number of Somali daycares. It doesn't. The population is here. It doesn't justify this. But we know that this is what they do. Guys, the reason why I'm even reporting this, because this is a follow-up to when this first broke a month ago and I talked about it. But just understand, this is another layer that we are dealing with. This another thing that they're throwing at us while we're broke, sick, struggling, and all of this chaos is in the world. You're seeing billions being sent or being given to these essentially Muslim daycares, while across the board, we're seeing Christianity being stamped out. In Nicaragua, they just announced that you're no longer allowed to bring a Bible there. Canada is legislating banning parts of the Bible. We already know what's happening in the UK. It is completely insane. But take a look. This says first signs of massive potential Somali fraud in Columbus, Ohio. The first Somali affiliated daycare facility that we knocked after landing in Columbus, Ohio today did not answer. A neighbor, actually, let's just play it instead of me reading that whole thing.
It's a daycare center owned by Somalians and stuff like that.
Have you ever seen any kids in this place here?
No, not that I know of. I just seen it, the building itself. I've never seen nobody come out the building or go in the building.
You've never seen anybody over there?
No, not at all.
So right now we are in front of the Great Minds Learning Academy. This is one of the many daycare centers, learning centers here in Columbus, Ohio, that are associated with the Somali community. As you know, Nick Shirley put out a bombshell report about all these fraudulent daycare facilities in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we wanted to come out to Columbus, Ohio, and investigate what might be going on in the second largest Somali community in the United States of America. So this place here is the first place we're going to knock, and we're going to see if anybody picks up or answers the door. Let's see. So it's locked. We're ringing the doorbell here, knocking on the door. Nobody's picking up, so we're not sure what the hell is going on here, but we're gonna get out of here. Now there's somebody over there. How you doing, sir? I'm sure you see the reports over the weekend about all the daycare centers in Minnesota. We just wanted to see what was going on. Did you know anything about this place here?
It's a daycare center owned by Somalians and stuff like that.
Do you ever see any kids there?
No, because they use the back door, so I won't know if they is.
They use the back door.
Yeah, I've never seen nobody come in, but they use the back door.
But have you ever seen any kid? You live around here?
Yeah, on this building right here.
Oh, you're in this building.
Yeah.
You're in this building too. Let me ask you: Have you ever seen any kids in this place here?
No, not that I know of. They use the back, so I've never seen nobody come out the front.
You've never seen anybody over?
No, not at all.
I just seen it, the building itself. I've never seen nobody come out the building or go in the building.
So we came to the back, just like those guys suggested, and there's nothing here. You know, we can keep poking around, but there's so many of these centers to go to. We're just getting started. So we're gonna go around the city. We're gonna go to a few more of these places. We're gonna see if we can get anybody to talk to us. Stay tuned.
Back of that place, but those rusty steps, and who is bringing their child? Okay, we know it's a fraud. We know it is. Now take a look at this. Going back, continuing to talk about other states things are going on in. A Massachusetts caseworker blows the whistle on Somali fraud happening in her state.
My entire FYP today has been Nick Shirley, Somalis, and daycare fraud in Minnesota. And now it's starting to slowly transition to Ohio and similar fraud. And I keep commenting in comment sections, but I'm just going to make a video now that this similar fraud happens here in Massachusetts. I used to work for early intervention, and when I had an appointment to service a child who went to a daycare that received vouchers, I was never let in 100% of the time. Never let in. I was either not let in or no one would come to the door. And then since I didn't service that child, I did not get paid for my time because early intervention is part of the Department of Public Health. And there was one time when someone from a daycare that received vouchers did actually come to the door, and they told me that the child wasn't there. So then I had to contact the parent, and the parent assured me that they dropped their child off that morning, but I wasn't let in. So similar fraud happens probably across the country, but I know for a fact from working for early intervention that it does happen in Massachusetts as well.
And guys, we know it's not just daycare. Okay, we know the original fraud was is feeding the, I forget what it is, but it's hundreds of billions of dollars. This broke last year, and that's the only reason why I remember it, because I reported on it, where Tim Walz is essentially this was a fund to actually give school children lunch. Okay, this was to feed children at school. Well, lo and behold, only a fraction, a small fraction was used for that, and the rest just was disappeared, just siphoned off. Maybe we need to revive that story, because that is the original one, and it just, so it had nothing to do with daycares. But if you notice, all of these seem to involve children. All of it involves children. When we think of how many children are trafficked, I don't know if trafficking is happening in these places. These could be just places where they bring children and then take them out at night, you know, trafficking. We don't know. But when there's one thing of fraud, we know it's everywhere. And if they're willing to do this in the name of children or to children, I put nothing past them. But getting back to this, so Even with this one, guys, look, a restaurant in Minneapolis called Safari seats 35 people, claimed to serve 18,000 meals a day to hungry children. The federal government paid them for every single one. 18,000 meals a day from a restaurant who seats 35. The children didn't exist. The meals didn't exist. The money did, and it's gone. This is just one piece of a $9 billion Medicaid fraud in Minnesota, the largest in American history. Today, I'm publishing the whole investigation, the fraud, the cover-up, and the whistleblowers who were ignored. And this is just going to, I think, going to their website or something like that. But guys, I have a lot more to bring you on this. There's just so much. I'm looking at my screen. I'm just like overwhelmed because I'm just jumping back into this. I'm like trying to remember everything and pull up all the receipts. But again, guys, this just ties into the times that we're in. This is the biggest fraud that we are ever seeing in the United States. And why is it being uncovered right now? Why are we seeing this right now? All that money is gone. The taxpayer dollars are gone. And a lot of it has gone back to Somalia. It has gone to fund terrorists. They're talking about a terrorist attack on New Year's Eve. They canceled New Year's Eve around the country. How do you think so many of these terrorist organizations get their funding? A lot of it is from people who move here and send it back home or send it to these organizations. We don't know where the money is going, but it's our own money that will be funding our own terror. It's insane. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell because I do have more on this and so many other stories. Till then, I will see you guys very shortly.
Wow.
Good food.
A whistleblower is now accused of a contractor in Maine of defrauding taxpayers out of millions of dollars over the course of 7 years. It's a story you'll see first here on The Hill and exclusively on News Nation. And it centers on Maine's Medicaid program. The business at the center of the allegations, founded by a Somali American, drawing comparisons perhaps to the scandal that has rocked the state of Minnesota. Our Rich McHugh joins us live tonight from Lewiston, Maine with his exclusive reporting. Hello, Rich.
Hi, Blake. Yeah, we're here in Maine, but this story is eerily reminiscent of the scandal that's evolving in Minnesota. We spoke with a whistleblower who alleges that millions have been bilked from the state here, from taxpayers and the Medicaid system, and that a Somali American-led health services contractor is at the center of it all.
I thought that we were doing the right thing this whole time. And the more I started digging, the more I started finding. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, that this was happening and that I was part of this.
Chris Bernardini spent 7 years working for Gateway Community Services, a Somali American-led health services contractor in Maine. Bernardini alleges Gateway oversaw a system in which false records were filed about client visits. And he says they charged taxpayers for providing services that were never performed.
We started getting some clients calling and saying, months later that their client owed them hours. They hadn't come in for these shifts and stuff. But I had a time card for it.
And they were billing for it.
They were billing for it.
In March of 2022, Gateway received a notice of violation from the state's Maine Care Services Program Integrity Unit based on an audit of records taken at random from January 2017 through December of 2018. Gateway overbilled by an estimated $904,000.
In your professional opinion, what you saw was fraud?
Absolute.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it.
But Bernardini says when the pandemic hit, it got worse.
I started seeing bonuses, $2,000 bonuses going to these staff that had only been with us for 2 weeks, never worked a shift with a client. And yet the PPP loan comes, you're giving $2,000 away like they're lollipops at a doctor's office.
In April of 2024, Bernardini wrote to the Department of Homeland Security seeking whistleblower protection. They referred him back to the state of Maine. Nearly a year later, Gateway fired Bernardini. The company's founder and CEO is Abdullahi Ali, a Somali American who, while at the time serving as executive director for Gateway, last year ran for president of Jubaland, a state in Somalia's south that borders Kenya. Last week, he posted on X, I make no apologies for building a successful business in Maine, working hard to earn a living, earning my PhD, giving back to my Maine community, and running for office in Jubaland. I am proud to contribute my hard-earned dollars to support my people back home. We reached out to Ali for comment multiple times. We even came to Gateway to try and speak with him.
Hello, I'm with News Nation. My name is... No comment? Is Mr. Ali here? Can we speak with Mr. Ali?
Republican State Senator Matt Harrington has called on Governor Janet Mills to investigate.
It's just an absolute insult to the Maine taxpayer that we know that there's this Medicaid fraud going on by Gateway Community Services. We're seeing nothing from the Mills administration on this, and I think it's appalling.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe I took so much of my time and put so much of my life into this agency that just tossed me aside. It's caused me to reflect a lot and, you know, try to trust my gut more and speak up more when I see something. It's not right.
Now, we've reached out repeatedly to Mr. Ali, to Gateway behind me. We've reached out to Governor Janet Mills, the head of Health and Human Services here. We've even reached out to the 3 Democratic Somalian American state reps here. Nobody would speak with us. Blake?
Rich McHugh, live for us tonight, Lewiston, Maine, with that News Nation exclusive. Rich, thank you. Joining us now for reaction from Monticello, inside the great state of Maine. Representative Donnie Ardell with us tonight here on the Hill. Donnie, you've been listening to that, and thanks for being with us. Your reaction to Rich speaking to this whistleblower?
Well, I have to agree with Senator Matt Harrington, where the executive branch of Maine government has, apparently dropped the ball. There's apparently no movement on an investigation, even though an investigation seems absolutely appropriate at this time.
You're a lawmaker, Donnie. You've got fellow lawmakers who clearly are disturbed by this. Any movement in the state legislature there? I know you're out of session, but what, if anything, are folks like yourself going to potentially do about this?
We are out of session, and we do have an oversight committee. I think this oversight would be an appropriate place to begin an investigation. However, I think the way this is funded, where Maine Care is really the administration of federal Medicaid. So the way this is funded is that about $1 billion of state money goes into Maine Care, but about $2 billion of federal funds goes into Maine Care. So the federal government has a clear interest in how their money is being spent, even though it's being administered by the state of Maine.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact